Oh, you're probably wondering where I am right now. Well, I was on a hot date around the galaxy with Eccentrica Columbus, the triple-breasted whore of Eroticon 6, and, well, one thing led to another, and all the stars ended up collapsing in on themselves, which opened up a portal to the void. Totally worth it, though. The things she can do.
Booga booga!
Hoodie Demon, why are you here? And what is this place?
This is the 10th circle of hell. It's where demons go when they die. I'm here because this is also where the intellectually dishonest go. Like this wonderful gem. Care to take a look?
Yeah, sure, but, are you dead or are you a demon?
Huh? Oh, both.
Yeah, but how can you
Roll the video!
If you're sick of me talking about guns, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I'm sick of talking about guns too. I'm sick of hearing about guns and gun-related violence. I'm not gonna mention the most recent incident because it doesn't matter. I'm gonna try and make this dose as generic as possible so I can just post this link every time there's another shooting. And there's gonna be plenty of opportunities for that. Because Americans are completely unwilling to do anything other than shrug their shoulders and say, well, nothing we can do about it.
Actually, Buckley, Americans like to explain to anti-gun people why the statistics of shootings are over-exaggerated, inflated, or sometimes just completely made up.
And also how they're outweighed by the benefits of firearm ownership.
Oh, a nice job poisoning the well there by painting all gun owners as gun-toting rednecks. This is ironic considering the picture he's about to show.
And who wants to bet he's gonna prove to be completely ignorant about guns?
Me! This guy right here, I want to bet!
I bet he's never even held one, let alone owned one.
Except in every other country, they have done something about it, clearly, because the United States is the only developed nation where this happens with this amount of frequency.
Actually, I have a video showing that's not true, not once you control for population. The US isn't even in the top 10, even when you limit the comparison to European countries.
Yup, and you know what else? There must be a connection between having lots of guns and being filthy rich, because the US is the richest country in the world, and we have more guns per capita than any other country, at least any other developed country. What? That claim has about as much evidence as anything he's said thus far. Oh, and the reason why climate change is an issue now instead of 200 years ago is because there were far more pirates then than there are now. Oh, and the reason why the divorce rate in Maine is as high as it is because of all the margarine people eat. Oh,
I think they get the point, Hoodie.
Every time, pro-gun people have the exact same arguments, the exact same metaphors, similes, analogies.
You see this picture and hear what he's saying? Remember both of those, because they're gonna become exponentially more ironic the longer the video goes on.
In fact, Tucker Carlson, Fox News correspondent who's also worked for MSNBC, CNN, basically all the 24-hour channels have put up with him for some length of time or another, trotted this old gem out. When there's a drunk driving accident, you don't ban cars, you try to prevent drunk people from driving them. And yet, when anyone even brings up the idea of gun regulation and control, not banning guns, we're not talking about that yet, people still scream, "My rights! My rights!"
let the irony begin. 'Cause we all know that's the only argument against gun control. Just my rights. Period. Good job, buddy.
Yeah, it's not like I haven't made a half-hour video going over lots of arguments for gun control and why they're invalid.
Oh, and you want to know why Americans in particular are so against gun control? Because in a country with more guns than people, the only thing gun control does is restrict the ability of law-abiding citizens to own guns. Buckley, I know for a fact you're smarter than this. There's no way you've actually sat down and thought about this.
Not only that, but none of these stop criminals from getting them on the black market. And in case you think that guns are somehow difficult for criminal enterprises to make, check out a link in the description called The Black Market for Firearms. See how easy it is for them to make guns, even off the grid in third world countries, with basic machinist tools. And we're talking high-capacity, fully automatic assault rifles for the Japanese Yakuza, the Chinese Triads, and others.
Oh my, wow. Dude, as someone who lived in a trailer park for his childhood, I can tell you, setting one of these up is much easier and safer than setting up and running a meth lab.
Yep, And keep that in mind as we go through this video.
Let's use the famous drunk driving analogy. You're right, you don't ban cars. But think about how much it takes to legally drive a car. You have to get a license. In order to do so, you need to prove to someone not just that you're old enough to drive, but that you're capable. Depending on where you live, this can be a pretty long process.
By the way, Buckley's being very disingenuous with this comparison. None of the things he's talking about are required to own a car and have it on your property. Only to drive it on public highways. And yet he's using this as an excuse to stop people from having guns in their home and on their property without this magical government license.
You have to get your learner's permit. Then you have to drive with someone in the passenger seat. Then you have a number of restrictions put on as to when you can drive and what roads you're allowed on. And finally, you have to then demonstrate to the government that you can drive by passing a test.
Yeah, by doing things like a 3-point turn, which no one does anymore. So what, the government's gonna ask us to load a musket ball in order to get our gun license?
Yeah, as if you're not qualified to drive until someone from the government says so. The government we really only listen to because they'll incarcerate us if we don't. Nice logic.
And it's not like this is a really big point. I mean, have you seen some of the morons out there driving? Cars are one of the biggest killers in this country. Far bigger than guns. And that's with government trying to regulate them.
And that doesn't even stop the drunk driving that Tucker was talking about, which Buckley didn't even try to answer. That sounds like a hideous fail if you ask me. So how would gun licensing result in any less risk than driver's licensing?
This process takes months, in some areas years, before you're allowed to operate a motor vehicle by yourself. During this time, you certainly can't purchase a car. I mean, you could, but you can't drive it on your own.
Again, you can, as long as you don't drive it on government roads. Private tracks are perfectly okay.
Hey, do you know how old I was when I first drove on government roads?
No? How old?
12.
What? How?
Because I was driving a tractor, and farm equipment is exempt from these licensing laws in most states. And Buckhead, if you're gonna tell me that driving a tractor is easier than driving a car, I'm gonna put you on one and tell you to get going. And of course, I'm gonna video it and put it on YouTube. That sucker's gonna go viral.
I don't know about there, but in Canada, you need proof of a full license and you need insurance before you can drive the car off the lot, or the dealership could be in huge shit. All of these things are regulations in some sort of attempt to create safer drivers, because the old system was you went to the DMV, paid your money, drove around the block, and you were licensed to drive a car.
Yep. And here's the thing, Buckley. Many of those regulations on cars are the same, if not even more heavy for guns in Chicago. Oh, and look at that. They have one of the highest violent crime rates in the country. And the rates are still climbing as we speak. Awfully convenient of you to forget to mention that.
California has the best gun control laws in the country, according to the Brady Campaign, one of the foremost gun control advocacy groups in the country, if not the world. And yet, look at how many mass shootings have taken place there. San Bernardino, the McDonald's Massacre, Santa Monica College, Seal Beach, Oikos University, Goleta, Santana High School, on and on and on. All of your common sense gun laws are in place there, and yet the killers were able to do this horrific amount of harm with little to no problem.
The biggest mass killing in American history outside of war was the 9/11 attacks, where almost 3,000 people were killed with 19 men armed with box cutters. Fucking box cutters! And the biggest school massacre in history was the Bath School Massacre in 1927, where 38 school children and 6 adults were killed by a homemade fertilizer bomb. In 1927!
Words put on paper by politicians don't stop violent people from doing what they're going to do.
Oh, and of course, let's not forget Texas. That state has the most guns per capita, and it has the lowest break-in rate of all 50 states. Hell, Austin alone has the 3rd lowest violent crime rate in the country. You have any idea how lax gun laws are there? They might as well just enact a law that says free gun with every bottle of liquor.
Liquor? I hardly know her. Oh, come on, that's a classic.
And it shows in that per capita, There were far more automotive-related deaths years ago than there are today in the United States.
Yes, and I'm sure that has absolutely nothing to do with power steering, seat belts, power brakes, anti-lock brakes, all-wheel drive, airbags, better tires, or any of the other hundreds of innovations I could mention.
Yeah, and it's not like the amount of car accidents per year in the US has really gone down at all, so this is a moot point to begin with.
You know what else deaths from motor vehicle accidents correlates with? Crude oil imports from Venezuela. Ain't it fun to look at the correlation and pretend it's proof of causation?
And funny enough, no one screams, "My freedoms are being taken away," when they introduce some new legislation regarding driving. Why? Well, because the right to drive isn't in the Constitution. The right to own guns is. Except, most people who quote that have no fucking idea what they're talking about. Ask someone to quote the Second Amendment word for word, and they'll probably say something like, "We the people have the right to keep and bear arms."
No one says that, Buckley. What was that picture you showed earlier about a straw man?
Which is not what it says. What it says is, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. A well-regulated militia. This part is constantly ignored.
No, it isn't. I spent a lot of time going over it in depth in my video.
We'll even ignore the idea that it was meant to be for members of a recognized militia only.
What the hell is a recognized militia? A militia is a group of citizens armed like the military.
I want to know where he sees the word recognized in the amendment. Maybe it's only in his copy. In crayon.
Oh, so he's on the verge of just making stuff up now. Spectacular. We've clearly reached the peak of intellectual honesty.
Let's pretend this really means Johnny Fuckface should be allowed to own a gun.
It does, Buckface. The militia was nothing more than the armed body of the people, and although they could be called into service by the state or the feds to fight off an invasion, mostly what they did was to protect their own towns from criminals.
It was also in place to protect against the government going to war with its own people. You know, like what they had just went through.
So what? You expect us to believe they wanted the government to recognize the militia that would defend the people from that very government?
Well regulated. It's not.
Well regulated doesn't mean what you think it means, Buckster. Although today's statists have wormed around with language enough that regulate means to restrict by government, at the time the Second Amendment was passed, it simply meant to make regular. If this had been a power of government, it would have appeared in Article 1, Section 8. But the purpose of the Bill of Rights is to restrict the government, not to give them new powers.
Not to mention, our founding fathers were minarchists on a good day. They did not support the government interfering in people's lives. How do we know this? Because if a militia, a group of citizens armed with guns, is regulated by the government, that is absolutely infringing upon said militia. Shall not be infringed, Buckley.
I wonder why Buckbeak thinks the amendment says the right of the people, not the right of militia members.
Well, you see, that was just a typo.
Oh, there are background checks in some states, and you have to wait 3 days to get your assault rifle.
No one can get assault rifles, stop lying. Assault rifles are fully automatic, and regular members of the citizenry are not allowed to just buy automatic rifles. As for the waiting period, that's not going to do a lot of good if the person needing the gun is a woman afraid of an ex who has no concept of the phrase restraining order. So what are you going to do when he rapes and murders her that very night? Are you going to accept responsibility then, buckaroo?
Unless, of course, you just go to a gun show, which, look, one's happening in the back of this store right now.
There is no gun show loophole, Bucky. Dealers who sell guns at a gun show are under exactly the same laws and regulations as those who sell it privately in a store. What the people who bleed on about this supposed loophole are doing is conflating the requirements of a regular gun dealer with those of a federally licensed gun dealer. But those requirements don't have anything whatsoever to do with whether or not they're selling their guns at a gun show.
You don't need to do half of the shit you need to do to get a driver's license in order to own a gun.
And in the cities where you do, the violent crime rate is through the roof.
In many places in the States, you don't need a license. There's no such thing as gun insurance. You don't need to prove to anyone that you're capable of handling a gun in a safe manner.
Oh, do you honestly think that someone proving to you they know how to handle a gun is gonna stop that person from walking out of the store and opening fire on a group of children across the street? I've listened to all the blather from all the pundits about all the shootings people talk about. Not once have I heard any of them complain that the shooter didn't know how to handle a gun.
All legally owned cars are registered with a government agency. Is every legally owned firearm registered? I'm going to tell you right now, the answer is no. But again, forcing people to do that? All sorts of excuses not to. The biggest of which, my freedoms!
But Lord Killian!
But Hoodie,
My freedoms! Buckley, do you have any idea how fucking absurd these arguments are?
Also, citation needed.
Tucker Carlson says places like Australia, Canada, and parts of Europe have no freedom because we have strict regulations or outright ban the ownership of certain types of guns or all guns.
That is not what he said. Unlike you, bucko, I've actually put a link to his comments in context in the description box.
Me too! Oh, by the way, he was talking about hate speech. He was talking about people being jailed for expressing unpopular opinions.
As for Australia's gun laws, they banned handguns because of the 1996 Port Arthur massacre, 21 years ago. In the 21 years before that, including the Port Arthur massacre, there were 90 people killed in massacres in Australia. How many have been killed in Australia in the 21 years since the gun ban? 88. Pretty much a wash. Australia has had just as many killed in massacres, regardless of weapon used, since the handgun ban as they had in a comparable period before.
Japan, too. I'll toss them in because they're a great example. Japan has a little more than 1/3 of the US's population crammed into like 1/100th of the space. And in 2008, they had 11 firearm-related deaths. 11!
Oh, look! This random year I pulled out of my ass and gave no context to totally proves my point. Take that, you conservative and libertarian shitlords.
Also, notice how whenever other countries are brought up, they always point to gun homicides instead of overall homicides, completely ignoring our contention that, deprived of guns, people will just choose an alternative weapon.
Also, why Japan instead of literally any other country?
Because it's the best one to use that statistic with, since Japan has lower crime across the board, including many kinds of crimes where firearms are irrelevant, like white-collar crime.
But it's a free country.
It's not that free. It's number 40 on the Index of Economic Freedom.
Yeah, which is quite a bit lower than the US at number 17, but of course she's not going to bring that up.
Also, you can't homebrew alcohol stronger than 1%. Many sinus and allergy medicines are illegal, as are asthma inhalers, and you even need a license to eat certain types of fish. Women don't have it so great either. A woman can be arrested for not wearing a bra in air conditioning. A woman who gets divorced must wait 6 months before she can marry again, and if she gives birth to a child during that time, the child belongs to the ex-husband.
Damn. Really?
Yes, there are even laws against dancing in many nightclubs.
Okay, that is where I draw the line. 2 nukes weren't enough. Anime is trash. Down with Samsung.
Samsung's Korean, Hoodie.
Oh, I knew that. I get carried away sometimes. I'm sorry.
In Canada, guns are difficult to get. And in 2013, there were 131 firearm-related homicides. 131, and we touched the border of the United States. We're practically the same country. But I feel pretty free.
Oh, this did not age well. Oh.
Yeah,
Step aside, my spaceman friend.
Hey!
I'll field this one. Yeah, Buckley, Canada is such a free country. It's so free that you can be fined for misgendering someone, or for bringing up the fact that many Middle Eastern countries practice involuntary sex change surgery as a cure for homosexuality. And I don't think I even need to go into the possibility of facing legal repercussions for criticizing Muslims, or even mentioning one of the 7,000 phrases in the Quran that explain that homosexuality is the worst sin possible, or how any and all infidels need to be killed in the name of Allah. See, Buckley, all Canada does now is offer proof to the U.S. that the enforcement of our Second Amendment is completely necessary for the enforcement of our First Amendment. and a country who cannot speak freely is a country under tyranny.
On the other hand, they are number 7 on the Index of Economic Freedom. I wonder if Buck's proud of his country's free market, unlike the more socialist United States of America.
I can vote. I can say what I want, do what I want, eat, drink, watch whatever I want, bang whoever I want as long as it's consensual. If I was a woman, I can get an abortion whenever I want.
Yeah, we'll see how long that lasts with all the Muslims that want to flee to Canada.
The only thing I can't do, go down to the store, say, 1 gun please, slap down money, and walk out with a shiny new death tool.
Oh God, are you serious? Are you kidding me?
Oh my God. Death tool? You're seriously resorting to wordplay now, Cuckley? Jesus Christ, dude.
By the way, most places in America, you can't do that either. And generally, the more difficult the state you're in makes it, the higher the crime rate. That's what you find when you make a comparison that's less prone to being due to cultural differences instead of gun laws.
In the land of the truly free, though, the United States of America, there are over 11,000 homicides by firearm in 2013.
Yup, and the vast majority of those deaths, the ones that are actually homicides, are gang-related. But why do I feel like you're not gonna bring that up?
He does know he's supposed to control for population, doesn't he?
11,208 people died because someone intentionally shot them. That's not including suicides or accidentals. Those are premeditated or heat-of-the-moment murders.
That statistic does not distinguish homicide from self-defense, you disingenuous asshole. It's true, 11,000 people die from guns every year in the US, but they are used for self-defense 2.5 million times every single year. 2.5 million shots versus 11,000 deaths. I'm no genius, but I'm gonna venture a guess there's some overlap there. I don't know though, I'm just a stupid gun nut, what do I know?
I wonder what his explanation is for the fact that firearm-related homicides in Canada have been increasing, even though their gang-related homicides have been decreasing. And this at a time when the homicide rate in America has been dropping, despite the number of guns in America increasing.
Everyone says, well, if you ban guns or make them harder to get, criminals will be the only ones who can get them. This is, however, hypothetical.
No, it isn't. I've already shown you how easy it is for black marketeers to make firearms, even high-powered automatic rifles.
It's based on nothing but fear.
Restrict guns because people might potentially do something evil with them someday. I mean, who really knows for sure, but restrict them all anyway.
Yeah, we're the ones fear-mongering here.
That the only reason people aren't busting into your homes to kill you right now is because you might be standing in the doorway waiting with your assault rifle to protect your family.
Who is saying these things? Citation needed, Buckup. You know, he doesn't actually have any cause to accuse us of only arguing in sound bites like "my freedoms."
Yeah, I mean, at least Shane's made quite a few videos on the subject where he presents actual arguments backed by evidence.
Even if he didn't see any of my material specifically, it's not like there aren't tons of other places online he could have gotten that information at his fingertips. Where do you think I got that information from in the first place? I'm no one special. I don't have any amazing knowledge or direct access to tons of research at a major university. I don't even have the income to make it through a bunch of paywalls to get statistical data in scientific publications. Bucky Rhodes could easily have done the same thing I did, entirely on his own, if he'd only had an inquisitive mind and a willingness to give up his preconceived notions. Apparently, he has neither one.
It can't be based on any real-world stats because, as we've shown, Canada and Japan both have super low gun murder rates.
Yeah, you're not cherry-picking there at all.
It's funny because they always mention, look what happened in Germany in the 30s and 40s, as well as in the Soviet Union and in Cambodia when they banned citizens from having guns. You know what happened? Genocide happened.
More stuff that didn't age well. Hey, Buckley, you know those European countries you statists like to point to as gun utopias? Yeah, well, as of May 2017, they're about to be the face of Western civilization going over a cliff.
like censoring speech on the internet, forcing Google to remove search results to news stories one of the participants doesn't like, banning the safest herbicide in the world because environmentalists hate Monsanto, banning olive oil jugs in restaurants, even telling bottled water companies they can't claim their product can prevent dehydration. All done by unelected officials.
But then when you mention how gun control works in other countries, they're very quick to point out, yeah, but we're not the same as them. So, you're not like other countries, but you're worried you are like Nazi Germany or Pol Pot's Cambodia?
We might as well be, because it doesn't matter what kind of country it is. From social democracy to fascist dictatorship, the government will always assume the same role, a monopoly on power. Period. And the people of the country need to be ready to fight back against that power.
Let's apply our Buck Buddies logic another way. Just because some people's houses get broken into doesn't mean everybody's doors need to be locked. It's not the idea that you're definitely going to get broken into, but just that you're in serious danger of it. And a lock is a good way to prevent it.
What are you talking about? That could never happen here.
Even though it did when Japanese Americans were herded into concentration camps.
Or when mentally disabled people were forced to go through sterilization.
Or when American citizens were held without charge in Guantanamo Bay.
Or when a gas banned by the Chemical Weapons Convention were used against a group of American citizens in Waco, Texas.
Nah, couldn't happen here.
They think the worst will happen, but the worst is already here, in the form of every asshole in the country having such easy access to guns that that's how they decide to solve their perceived problems.
What are you talking about? Where is this happening? Why aren't we seeing this happen in places where people have a lot of guns, like gun shows? Where are all the arguments turned into shootouts at gun shows? Where are all the mass shootings at gun shows? You can't show it happening, but that is the worst? Is that really the argument you want to rely on, Buck-a-muck?
No, the worst happens without guns. When the biggest, meanest animals run over everyone else by brute force, if you're a petite person, an elderly person, a small woman, or whatever, you're gonna be at the mercy of every brick wall who wants to do whatever they want to you. Guns make the difference.
I'll never understand how you lefties are all so gung-ho about equality everywhere except here. Guns are the equalizer. No 200-pound thug can threaten the dignity of a 100-pound woman who has half a pound of metal and plastic to even the score.
And arming everyone in a school or a movie theater or wherever would just lead to more hair-trigger incidents. Angry assholes solving arguments with bullets.
Evidence, please. Buckenstein? Sorry, I'll leave the buck punts to you.
Citation needed, Buck Truck.
Nice one.
Thanks. And how do you explain the fact that James Holmes walked past several other theaters, ones that were not only closer, but some that were even more crowded, to go shoot up people at the one that specifically banned guns?
Yeah, Buckley, you've done videos on the Dark Knight Rises massacre, so I know you know all about that.
And how come all these shootings seem to happen at gun-free zones?
The world may never know.
Shh! Stop talking during the movie! Fuck you, I paid for my ticket. I can do what I want.
Yeah, you're not fear-mongering at all here, are ya?
We know humans love the easiest solution available. That's why we eat fast food instead of cook, drive instead of walk or bike, watch the movie when it comes out instead of read the book.
This is the logical fallacy of a false equivalency. We are programmed to like those things due to the easy access, but we are not programmed to harm our fellow species. In fact, we're programmed to do just the opposite.
I really have to wonder about people like him. It's like he assumes that everyone else will turn to violence at the drop of a hat. Maybe he's the one we need to keep an eye on.
I've got just the solution.
Detained!
Well, these people would just use something else, knives or bats or whatever. I say, let them try. You let me know when 10 to 20 people are killed in a mass stabbing or bludgeoning.
Okay, July 25th, 2016. 19 people were killed and 20 were injured in a knife attack outside Tokyo in that wonderful country of Japan you're so fond of. Want another? Okay, March 1st, 2014. 33 people were killed and 143 wounded in a mass stabbing in Kunming, China. And those were easy to find. Did you even look? Have you done any actual research into this at all, Bucky Charms? Or are you just parroting talking points from your favorite gun control websites?
Hey, wait a minute. Are you telling me that stabbing sprees are more prevalent in countries with strict gun laws?
Imagine that.
In fact, in a school in Pennsylvania in 2014, 21 people were injured in a mass stabbing. No deaths. Not one.
Okay. I know it didn't work last time, but trust me, this random incident that I cherry-picked and pulled out of my ass will prove my point.
Oh, can I play? Okay. June 26, 2016. A mass shooter opened fire into the crowd at Playoffs nightclub in South Carolina. A citizen legally carrying a concealed firearm shot the gunman in the leg. 4 people were injured, including the shooter. No one was killed. Gee, I wonder why they don't give that the same airtime on CNN and The View as they do other shootings.
You know what? No matter what side of the argument you land on, you have to agree that something has to be done.
I agree. I say we follow the example currently being set by Texas. Let's make guns readily available and watch the rates of violent crime and home invasion plummet like they did in the Lone Star State.
Or learn from Davi Barker's analysis of mass shootings, where he found out that the average number of people killed in mass shootings when stopped by police is 14.29, but when stopped by an armed citizen, it drops to 1.8.
Or, we could just ignore trends and continue to cherry-pick examples of evil people doing evil things with a gun, and we can follow Chicago's example. We can make it next to impossible to legally obtain a gun, and we can watch the violent crime rates skyrocket like they did there. An armed society is a polite society. What's so hard to understand about that?
It's not really about that, though. Listen up, buck, banana, fana, understand that the only reason to call for you to be disarmed is because they want someone to do to you something they wouldn't be able to do if you were armed. Never forget that.
It doesn't matter if you don't believe that it has anything to do with guns, even though, regardless of motive, that's almost always the weapon of choice in the US.
The weapon of choice for gang members to blow each other away? Yeah, it usually is. What happens when a gun isn't available? Do they go, aw shucks, I can't go and kill a bunch of people? Of course not! In China, on May 22nd, 2014, some people drove a car through a crowd and threw bombs, killing 31 people and injuring at least 90.
So let them try something. Even if it means getting a gun is, at the very least, as difficult as being allowed to drive a car.
Aw, man. Gun restrictions are so heavy that I can't own a gun at 30 years old. It's all because I have a record for that one time I got busted in college walking around with an ounce of a plant in my pocket. Well, better call up my local black market gun dealer to get one.
If it doesn't work, you get to say I told you so while you take part in the well-regulated part of the Constitution.
We're already saying that, Bucky Monkey.
God damn it.
And by the way, Bucky and Cher.
Oh, come on. How did I not think of that one?
The language of the Second Amendment was taken from the earlier Articles of Confederation, which described a well-regulated militia as one that is sufficiently armed and accoutred. So yes, we will make sure that we are so equipped.
So, buck your mother.
Ha! Knew you had it in ya.
Well, that's it, everyone.
Thanks for watching.
Hold on, I gotta take this.
You will be ready in 5 minutes.
Mom, I'm working.
Don't you yell at your mother. Now, I didn't find that jacket. You better not be wearing it. We live in hell. Take it off before you have a heat stroke.
My skin is 500 degrees.
That's because you didn't use your ointment.
Mom, I'm in space anyway.
You're on drugs. So help me when I get hold of you.
I gotta go. I'm needed back at
No,
home.
wait, hold on. How do I get out of here? Ah, great. Wonderful. Turns out you can't rely on demons. Who knew? Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, please hit like and subscribe. And don't forget to go to Hoodie Demon's channel to check out all the awesome videos there.